Hello and welcome back to Talk Seagulls. Oh my God, it feels like ages since doing this. I think genuinely the last time we were down here was about 2 months ago. I think genuinely it's got to be close, a month and a half, I reckon. But I'm joined by number 7, Mr. Toby Bull. I've got to say it in the way that Simon did in the video. That was cool, by the way.
Yeah,
all the league's finest.
Cool. Yeah, it was cool. See, our first game was last night. A pretty surreal experience. And yeah, I'm still in a little bit of shock on how it's all sort of come about. And yeah, it probably has been good month and a half or so.
Easily. Because then we've had the international break as well.
Too long. Yeah,
I genuinely, it feels weird doing it. I've got to be honest. But yeah, it's nice to be back, isn't it? Yeah. But I've got to talk to you about last night first, because you got back, 2 o'clock in the morning. It's now 1:30 this afternoon. I mean, fair play one for even bothering to come here, because if I were you, I'd have found an excuse out of this, to be honest.
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
But 2, talk to me. How was it?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. The whole setup's incredible. Obviously, I'd highly recommend people watch it. And if you haven't seen bits of it, there's loads of stuff on Sky and YouTube and stuff. And just go have a look, because it's so exciting. And I think I've had so many people now messaging me going what on earth is this? Because it kind of got them up off their seats, and it was so entertaining, so exciting, so fast paced. And yeah, the whole experience was just mental. The whole setup, going to the hotel, being shuttled to the arena, and then getting your kits, and then just playing, and there was quite a few people there surrounded. I think it's difficult for him to maybe always have people there from I think first game kicks off 5:30 to 10:30. It's quite rare you're going to have people watching from that length of time, but there's still quite a lot of people there.
Darts sort of thing.
But it was just, the whole experience was just nuts, mate. Everything going on, all the media, it was just, it was surreal.
It seemed a bit like NBA, but for football in a weird way. Did it feel like that there? Because obviously I couldn't say because I wasn't there, but watching
it was just, everything was so fast paced and fast tempo. Even just getting there and then getting to the change rooms, getting your stuff, going to the warm up area, doing the pitch, doing your warm up for a few minutes, and all of a sudden you're into the game. And then the game is just literally it's just going on constantly. And if you switch off for just a few seconds, you could concede a goal. And then goals are so important. I think if you score at the right time, it's crucial. Obviously with the power play things and the things in the last 3 minutes, you really have to make them count. And if you don't, you lose the game. It makes such a difference. But yeah, mate, it was nuts. The whole experience was just nuts. And yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
How long ago did it come about? Or was it just a random email out of the blue?
No, I got a call quite a while ago from someone doing quiet, I know, I just didn't I didn't really think too much of it. I got a call quite a while ago, and they're kind of telling me about what they had plans and all that sort of stuff, and if I'd be interested. I was like, yeah, of course, it sounds brilliant. Obviously I had to speak to the club and things like that, and they're all okay with it. So yeah, it was pretty just mental how it all sort of came about. And then obviously the draft and things happen again. I didn't really speak to many people about it because I wasn't really too sure what was going on. And then, it's all now taken off, and now we're into it. First game in, and hopefully a good 11 weeks coming up.
11 weeks. So 11 weeks of just every Monday.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah,
See,
6 games every night, back to back to back.
And then when I saw your face come up, I thought, what?
Yeah.
And then I had loads of messages, people being like, oh, Toby's on there. And I thought, is he? Because I had not to say I had no interest in ball league, but I probably wouldn't have thought to watch it. And then when I saw it coming around, and I thought, okay, let's just give it a watch to see what's on. And I saw you. I thought, right, well, I'm definitely going to be watching it now. And then last night I gave it a watch. Obviously, I only caught the end of it, and luckily I got to saw your game. You were later on because I had to shoot myself. And then I saw the last one, and I thought, well, luckily I'd say the last 2 games that I got to see were actually really good games.
I think our game was one of the most competitive. It was really there was a couple games where it was only 1 goal difference,
right?
And I think our game was really competitive, and it was a really good showing. I think the first game was 7-2 or something, and people people were like, oh, maybe this is. And then I think the games just started to get better, but again, it's week 1, so a lot of the players there, I felt it's still a little bit nerve wracking. You don't really know. You don't know what the pitch is like, what it's like playing. It's kind of
It's a bit like a mini stadium type thing as well, isn't it?
Some of the boys will be a little bit like nervous and maybe a little bit in their shell. And I think next week you might start to see, and as the weeks progress on, people start to come out of their shell a bit more. And I think it'll get even more entertaining. But I still think it was unbelievable, and it just got better and better and better. I think as I watched the game before us, that was a good game. It's just constant shots, saves, free kick. There's just always stuff going on. I think the other thing they do with the refs, it was like, I don't really give a lot of fouls. It's like if you get a little nick, if you get a little nick on the ball, they'll go, no, play on. And I think that's what they want. They just want it to be free flowing, entertaining. That's the whole purpose. They want it to be entertaining, but at the same time, for us as players, it's really competitive. Like they've the scouting they've done, I think, is genius. They've got a really good combination.
Well, you got Illich. He looks handful.
They've got a really good combination of like some 11-a-side boys. They've got a lot of 6-a-side boys that come from that background. They've got some ex-pros. So there's a lot of competition there to try and show that you can do that and play at a high level. And it's kind of like, it's seen as like the highest level for 6-a-side. They're probably trying to make that their thing. It's, to represent that is pretty nuts. And obviously you've got all the big names and stars in and around it as well.
For a platform like for a baller league, how important is that for people like you, 21-year-old goalkeeper that, you know, you've been at Lewis, got let go at Brighton, to then have a platform like that? You know, you can really put yourself out there. You were being on Sky Sports yesterday, being praised for the unbelievable saves that you were making, and rightly so.
Yeah, I think, from a platform perspective, I think it's only going to benefit. Having a lot of eyeballs on you, hopefully making some good saves. Of course, for my platform, we'll see the social media stuff, it'll do really well. Again, I think people will be like, oh, you might be able to get a move. Yeah, I might be able to get a move, but there's then people going, oh, go get a move, play pro. And I was a bit like, yeah, but at the same time, it's very different. Like 11-a-side and 6-a-side, for me, it's like a completely different sport. And it is. Don't get me wrong, you're going to get more eyeballs and maybe a bit more attraction, and then you might come and watch your 11-a-side games. But it is like a completely different sport. But for me, I just love being involved. I just really appreciate the opportunity, and just the people that were calling me and trying to get me involved. I was like, when I heard about it, it's like, this is incredible. And I was so happy that I kind of like, actually I want to go and do this. And I'm grateful for that, for the opportunity, and just being able to just sort of showcase my skills and just be in and around it all, because everything's it's like a real professional setup. It feels,
there's a lot of energy proper as well, a lot of passion, especially with the ex-pros as well. But as you know, a lot of the influence that are in charge of these, you had Mini Minter Simon, didn't you? What's he like to be around?
He's a really nice guy. Really nice guy, but he takes it seriously as well. And I think
that's it.
To just be in and around it, like, that's more than enough. Of course, you're going to try and make the most out of this opportunity, and I'm going to try and make the most. But for me, like, it's such a pleasure just to play and just enjoy it. And I think some boy, you just need to remember that. Like, for me, I just want to go out and enjoy it. It was just pretty surreal, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it did look unbelievable. And the saves you made, I have to bring him up, don't I? Because the first one I've got to bring up, because everyone was slating you to begin with on the commentary. I don't know who was on the commentary, but they were saying, "Oh, keeper, how's he getting beaten?"
No, this is what I was trying to say. I was like, don't get me wrong, you went back and I go, well, yeah, most shots probably look back and go, oh, I should have saved that.
Yeah.
But like, it's so close. Like, all the shots are so close. And it's kind of like, you have to react. Like, sometimes the distance between me and you have to try and react. And like, unfortunately, I'm not just like the size of the goal. Just things will slip through, but like, I'll learn and I'll adjust different things. Like, next time I'll just go into a different shape when he's in that angle. So you just block off more area. It's kind of like, it is so difficult because of how close it is and how hard they do kick the ball and how fast tempo it is. You have to be constantly on the move. So there's going to be things that just go in and you go, oh, but that's what it's going to be. I think if you watch back all the games, like we spoke about off air, it's kind of like, you're going to see lots of that happening because of how quick it is and stuff like that. And then at the same time, you've got really good opportunities because there is so many shots. You've got good opportunities to try and make some good saves.
I think you redeemed yourself in them last two. I've got to be honest. You did get a touch on that one. You did. I saw it first day. So I think Toby's got a touch on that. And I think he did.
I was playing. And then they'd done the replay, the slow-mo on the big cube, and I was kind of watching it back and I went, yeah, that looks quite good. And then obviously I had to remember I was still playing. I think for me, it's always nice to have them moments, and obviously Sky Sports posted it and stuff, and say confidence for me, I just enjoyed playing. Like I was just there and I had the ball at my feet. I was enjoying, that's a bit of me. Like that's my style. Give me the ball, I'll play, I'll try and make saves. I just enjoy it. And I think that's the whole purpose of six-a-side, because you're so involved, you can enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
Especially from a goalkeeper's point of view. Like 11-a-side, you might not touch the ball as much. Well, it's different for me at Lewis. I get involved quite a lot with the build-up play, but in some games you might not touch the ball, whereas with six-a-side, you're always involved, and I just love it.
Well, it's a great point, because a lot of people in football now say that football's a bit more boring, it's a bit too structured, there's more tactics behind it, whatever, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, it does answer that problem, whether it's a problem or not. It does answer that problem of, entertainment value. And as you say, they're letting a little bit more go in terms of the referees. You're seeing players like yourself that, you're so comfortable with the ball at your feet. You'd like to see that a little bit more in goalkeepers, to prove that you're not just someone that sits in there and waits and tries to get any blocks in. You actually can play football as well.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if there's any Brighton in you with that one, but the ball playing was quite impressive. I've got to be honest, but it does answer that question too.
No, 100%. And obviously, loads of people have been talking about like, has football got a bit more boring with the tactics? I think for me, football's football. Football's not going to change. I think there's always going to be people trying to be one step ahead, and tactics are important. It's how you win games of football. It can make such a big difference. And I still love football. We all still love football.
Of course.
Yes, it's maybe become a little bit more backwards, sideways, but I think it's going to be like that. And I think there will be a change. Some people might go, actually, no, we are going to go more direct. And I think that's sometimes the way the players are built, a lot more athletic, I think, now than just like your old school technical players that could probably still have a few pints.
You want to see them players express themselves like you did last night.
You want to see that because you also want that freedom. And I think with this style of football, yes, it's brilliant. It's so entertaining. I love it. And it will be something that runs alongside football, but also from the football in me as well, I still have that passion for like 11-a-side. I saw PK, I think it was someone, because he does that league in Spain. He was kind of like, if it's 0-0, neither side should get a point. And I'm kind of like, I get his point of view, but for me, that's just a stupid statement. I think he's kind of forgetting like where, like he's been at lots of big clubs, important clubs. You're telling me if you're like let's just go Ipswich, for example, that have come up, and you've, from a defensive point of view, you've worked your absolute socks off against like a Man City to get a 0-0. You're telling me you shouldn't get rewarded just because the fans haven't seen a goal. It's kind of like, yes, football is it's for the fans. You want it to be entertaining, but from a player, it's also, you have that competitive edge. Every point matters. So yeah, it's quite hard to compare. They're still, for me, like I said, they're completely different sports. And it's just brilliant that this sport is now starting to come through in England.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And it's starting to get a platform. I think it was really big in the country that you go around. There's loads of kids that go play six-a-side. It's on probably every night in this country.
Yeah,
it just never had a platform. And now obviously these people in Germany that have done exceptionally well out there have come over to the UK and have given it a platform. It's fantastic. The whole thing, I think, is just fantastic.
No, I think it's great. I've got one last question to ask you, because a lot of people said about influencers that they're not the same as being like an ex-pro. You've got, was it Figo's there, and then you've got someone that's maybe just a YouTuber, and then they're comparing that, saying how can YouTubers compete with ex-pros? And it's a fair statement to make, whatever. What's the coaching like? Is it just the YouTuber, and are they good? Because obviously you work with a YouTuber as well.
So a lot of the teams, if you would have seen last night, a lot of the teams have like an actual coach as well. So some teams, so we've got a guy with Mini Minter that does all the coaching, and he's done some like small side stuff, six-a-side stuff. So he does a lot of the coaching stuff. But then Mini Minter's also involved. I think the side we played at Wembley Rangers, their coach is the England six-a-side coach. And then I think I want to say John Terry's team. He does it. Him and is it Jody March? I'm not too sure, but he has someone who does it with him. But those two are the ones actually doing the coaching. But most of the teams, the ones with the influencers, the YouTubers, have an actual football coach or like a six-a-side coach doing it with them, because it's only fair. I think that's the right way of doing it, because it makes it more entertaining. It's not just people rocking up and playing. There's an actual style and structure behind it that makes it even. It's competitive. That's why I said the recruitment they done was fantastic, because it makes it competitive. It's not just people turning up and going, all right, let's just kick a ball around. People are there and they want to win, and they enjoy it, and they want to express themselves. So,
I mean, being on your perspective, you've gone from Lewis, it's obviously a great club, and you know, to then have a social media platform that you've got, do you think that's helped you in terms of getting a little bit more exposure towards what you do? Obviously, it's a very big difference in going on your phone and watching a highlights reel to actually going to watch you play.
Yeah.
But, you know, it gives a good standard of what you were all about, you know, for your platform when you go to something like Baller League.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, like, it's more football. So I just love playing football, and it's more football, and I get to now show it in front of an audience. I've always liked playing in front of people. I've always liked to show people what I can do. So from that sort of perspective, for me, the platform side, yes, it's good. And obviously, being at Lewis's, I absolutely love the club. I've only got good things to say about the club. The staff, the players, the whole sort of ethos of the
Seems
club.
like a great setup.
It's fantastic. The people are just lovely, and the football is lovely. The pitch is lovely. I can showcase my skills, and yeah, there's that bit of freedom there. Like, they trust me a lot with the build-up play, and at the same time, like, if I'm getting it wrong, they'll tell me, and I'll have to go away and work on it. So it's not that I just turn up and I do it. There's still that demand every single week to be better and do better. So I love that. And then obviously coming on with this, the social media stuff, again, it was never a plan. We've had this chat. It was never a plan for me to do social media. It just kind of took off, and I had a lot of people that kind of helped me in and around it at the start. And yeah, I think it only just benefits, really. It just grows. But ultimately for me, it's just more football. Like, I just love, I love playing football. The social media means I play more football. Ball League means I play more football. Lewis means I play more football. And ultimately that's what I've loved to do since I can remember. So if I can play loads of football, then I'm sweet and I'm happy.
It is a great tool. To all its, you know, drawbacks that people like to go over, I still think social media is a great tool if you use it in the right way. You know, there's a lot of talk over particular platforms at the moment that are being completely killed, and there's a lot of bad stuff on there, which I completely agree with. But at the same time, from our perspective, getting more and more jobs, more work, you know, whether it's you with your football, whether it's me with presenting, it's giving opportunity to someone 100%. That probably wouldn't actually be able to get it. I've got no right to get presenting gigs. I have no grades, didn't go to uni. Realistically, I'm not a journalist at all, but I still got to go to press, media and all that sort of stuff. So I think from both of our perspectives, we actually look at social media in a pretty good way. Yeah,
I think a lot of it's kind of changed as well. Like, yes, it's important that you have like grades and there's education there. Like, I like education. I think it's important that you learn, but it doesn't necessarily mean like an actual certificate. Like, your education might be experiences and doing that, and that's how you get jobs. Someone might see something and be like, actually, I loved his work. Let's get him involved. And it's kind of similar. Like, I just put my stuff out there. Again, it's from an entertainment point of view. So yeah, like I say, it only benefits for both of us, and we like do it in the right way. Like, I'm just showcasing what I love to do, and I think that that content does well. None of it's fake. It's all authentic. I'm not trying to show off anything, and the same with you. We're not trying to put any of that bad stuff out there. It's just what we love to do, and it's with these sort of platforms coming in, it only benefits us. And ultimately, football's just a whole different world, and it just brings in lots of opportunities. And like, even last night, the amount of like media and stuff around it, if that doesn't happen last night, all these people, they have different jobs, but then this opportunity doesn't come up. So I think access. With all new things, there's always really good opportunity. But yeah, for me, it's just, again, just more football.
Yeah. So all in all, Baller League is a very good thing.
I think so. There's obviously going to be people that hate it. There's always people that go, oh, what's this? But ultimately, I think it's just, it's awesome.
It's a bit of fun.
Yeah, exactly. If people don't see that, it's kind of like that. For me, that's just old school thinking. Yeah. You gotta get used to like the new times, things coming in, things being different. This isn't like, for me, you can't compare it to football. It's a different sport. And I think that's what I try and always say to people. It's like, it literally is a different sport. So stop, like, get your old brain out the way and go, oh, what's this about? Just enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I agree. That was quite a nice little segment on Baller League. I didn't expect it to be that long, but I thought, you know what?
It just shows how, I think, how entertaining it is and how like much people are talking about it. It's kind of just blown up. Like you say, not really a lot happened at the start.
No, I didn't really know too much of it. I saw the advert a while ago when John Terry and all that was promoting it, and I sort of just forgot about it. Saw the draft. I thought, okay, watch this, see what's in it. And obviously, not really much was happening apart from actually drafting players. But then when I watched it, I thought, This could be pretty good.
I think it's quite clever from them, to be fair. It kind of kept it under the radar a little bit, and then it had just a big spike.
Yeah.
And obviously Sky Sports being involved as well. That's only
of course. Yeah.
That's massive as well. So
massive platform. Yeah, I'll get back into Brighton. So for some of the stuff that would have remained in that episode, Brighton, mate. Like we were talking about Lewis and Bull playing goalkeepers. Bart Verbruggen's been on the way in international break duty. We've had JP Van Hecker along with 23 others, I think, which is absolutely insane. God, that was a real clutch for a segue there. But we've had a lot of players on international duty. We're nearly back to normal, and it's an FA Cup weekend. There's not too much to report on our side. I think the only thing I saw was the Dutch manager actually dug out Mats Wiefer. The poor guy can't catch a break. He's gone out there to his hometown, and a lot of people were actually saying that it wasn't his fault. I didn't see whatever the mistake was, but I feel just a bit bad for him. He can't seem to just get himself some consistency. But hopefully we could get a bit of that now, because we've got two massive games coming up, and that is Nottingham Forest in the Cup this Saturday, and then you've got Aston Villa during the week afterwards. Now, if you look at both of those games, one of them's a chance to get back into Wembley for an FA Cup semi-final against a team that smashed us 7-0 only about 4 weeks ago. And Aston Villa, who are level or about a point behind us, I think.
Yeah, I think they're below,
for Champions League race in the Premier League. What one would you rather go for?
I think, first of all, touched on your first point, I think having that amount of internationals away, it kind of just shows where the club's at. I think it's fantastic that you've got that amount of players involved with their countries, and it's only going to bring them a lot more confidence that they've been away and been selected for their country. And then, I think the next week or so could be a real season defier for you lot. I think that FA Cup one's massive, like you say, to get that little bit of revenge. There's that double incentive there to go and beat Nottingham Forest, because obviously they're 7-0, and then to get to Wembley. And then obviously Aston Villa, it's like, hold on, you win that, it's actually this conversation is going, well, we could actually try and push for it. And I think if the club get it or not, the fact that you've been able to really actually compete for it and have a really good chance to get there, I think is more than enough. But obviously, of course, you want to get it.
It's not.
Of course you want to get it. But to even be in that conversation and be involved is just incredible. The next couple of weeks or so could be a real season defier for you lot. And I think you just got to go for both. I don't think that the boys aren't going to go, oh, we prefer this one. You just go for both. And you go out there and, you just give it your all. I think, obviously, a trophy for the club, imagine winning the FA Cup. Like, that would just be, that would be incredible.
This is the thing. It's hard, because as much as I'd absolutely love to get into Champions League, I'm not saying it is a case of one or the other. But I think if we won the FA Cup, I think people are going to then remember that more, because you're going to think that's, 2025, that's when Brighton won the FA Cup, their first ever trophy. Whereas in 20 years' time, you're not going to go, oh, do you remember when Brighton got fifth? I mean, or they got into the Champions. You might remember that, maybe.
Well, I think
it's not the same prestige, right?
Yeah, I think from a club perspective, they'll prefer to get Champions League, because it brings them a lot more money.
Yeah, of course.
But at the same time, from a historic perspective, winning a trophy and having your name on that trophy, it's just something I think the club not needs, but it's just incredible. It'll be a real.
Do you know why I think it needs it, actually? Because all of this talk about Brighton being the best recruiters, the best sellers, we get the best world-class talent in from all around the world, to then back that up and prove it, and then say, you know what, we sold all these players to Chelsea, we bought a bunch of new players in, and this is what we can do with the money. We go
brought in a young manager as well.
Brought in a young manager, and you've changed pretty much the entirety of the squad. A lot of backroom staff gone, and then you win a trophy. I think that's to me, is probably the best possible backup, and it's the best achievable trophy we're going to get, because we're not going to probably win the league. So of all the trophies we could have got this season, the FA Cup is probably is the most prestigious one.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. It's difficult. I think, obviously, it would be a real, where the club's been the last 10 years, it would be a real ice on the cake. And it would kind of put you guys in a real good space. I think even getting like Europa League, again, for saying that for Brighton and Hove Albion, to get European football.
You get that with an FA Cup.
Yeah, you get that with and it's kind of like, you just got to go for both. I think, of course they're going to, you got to go for both. But if you had to choose one, I think from maybe from like a fan's perspective, having a trophy and having that, you'll always remember that. Do you know what I mean? You're as a fan going to Wembley or wherever you watch it, if you get there as a final and you win that trophy, from a fan's perspective, you'll never forget that. More so than I think if you got Champions League football. Don't get me wrong, that's absolutely incredible, and you'll have some incredible European nights. But to actually win a trophy at Wembley
could happen again, right?
Oh yeah,
it could happen again.
But to win a trophy is, for me, I think to win a trophy is probably a lot harder than,
and to have this sort of opportunity. I think with the teams left in it, not to discredit any of them, but when realistically we're now bookies' second favourite behind City, then you've got Villa. I think it's Fulham, Preston. Obviously City, us, and then there's one other team that I'm missing somewhere. I can't remember who it was. Bournemouth. So of all of those clubs left in that, I mean, they're all very beatable. Even City. I mean, I'll touch on the City result as part of that. But I think all of those, especially with how good our team is, I mean, we'll reverse it back just before the international break because we could have beaten City that day. That Carlos Baleba chance has haunted me all the way throughout the international break. And actually, I just want to talk about someone that's obviously a friend of yours, but Jack Hinchwood, who, whether you give it his goal or not, I don't think they're allowed to. It's
a bit harsh. Yeah, it is a bit harsh. I think he deserved it, though. I think his performances have been fantastic. I think he's been superb, and he's kind of showing now that he's a real stable figure in that side. I think there's some people going, how much is he really going to play this season? I think he's a real stable figure. And then even to get called up, I think he played, was it last night or night before for England 21s, and he's starting. It's just, for me, it's fantastic. He's just such a good lad, and I think he's now going to be the new Mr. Brighton, as people are going to call him.
Well, as a boy from Worthing going and getting a point up in Etihad, coming home saying you've really got to win. It's quite surreal, isn't it? Really.
Again, it just shows where the club's at, and they're doing it right. The recruitment's been fantastic, but at the same time, they're having people like Jack coming through, and there's going to be a lot more, mate. There's a lot more boys in the academy that I think.
Freddie Simmons scored for England.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more pushing through, and a lot more boys that look like Brighton players as well. And I think that's the important thing. They need to be Brighton players coming through, and I think there's a lot of boys that will progress through and hopefully get their chance in the next few years or so. And again, it's really exciting for the club. But for me, Jack's he's in, he's set, and I think that just shows on his character and his work rate that he's now playing for England under 21s. And for me, it'll be like a matter of time. If he just keeps performing well, it'll be a matter of time before he gets that senior call up.
Such a shame for him with the midfield of England selection these
days. It's don't get me wrong, it's so tough.
Ran with world-class talent.
But he's got time. He's got a lot of time. He can still play for the 21s for what? Another
4 years. 3 years.
How
old is he?
I think he's 19.
Oh, is he 19? Is he 19? Fair enough.
Is he 19 now? But maybe, but I don't know if it depends on years. So it could be like 3 years. So he's still got a lot of time, and even he's still representing his country. And you look at some of the 21 squad, you've got like Harvey Elliott, Branthwaite. There's a lot of boys that are playing consistently as well in the Premier League at big clubs. And he's in and around it, playing with them. So even that's an achievement itself.
The experience you gain on them sort of camps is immeasurable, isn't it?
Then when you make that jump, because you're in that setting, when they're going, okay, who are we going to bring in? Jack's been in and around England 21s. He knows what the setup's like.
Yeah.
He'll have a better chance of getting picked than someone who hasn't been in the setup.
Another shout out I'll give is Joao Pedro, because he had a brilliant game against City just before the international break. Then he gets called up to the Brazilian squad and wears the number 9. I saw a lot of Brazilian fans saying that he didn't play that well. So we're not going to comment on how he played for Brazil. We're just going to talk about the fact that Brighton's number 9 is Brazil's number 9, at least even just for now. To me, that's insane. It really is.
Yeah, it is incredible. And I think his performances, he had a little bit of a blip, didn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know whether that could just be like fitness. He might have been struggling with a few different things.
Very bad form in general as well for a while.
But his performance, it's more his work rate as well. I think that's, again, what people want to see. His work rate's just been fantastic.
Yeah. He covered everywhere against City. Really did. He was absolutely everywhere. And I think that's one thing I'll always praise Joao Pedro for. I saw a lot of City fans saying, well, don't talk about his diving. And actually, I will talk about his diving, because I'm going to say I hate it just as much as everybody else.
Isn't it?
Right, so I hate it as well. Okay, I promise you, I say the same thing. I'll keep the consistency. I hate when our players dive just as much as anyone else's. But Joao Pedro, for me, he's got I've said it so many times before, he's got that big game player gene. And when you see him then going to Brazil, he's got his shirt on, the Joao Pedro 9, and then he's got he's got the aura of being a big player. He's only 22 years old, believe it or not, which is insane to me. And he's just got every mark now of being that player. I think, as you say, you just want to see that consistency throughout the season. I seem to remember when Hertzler mentioned his sort of work rate, maybe, and I think Joao actually spoke about it just before the Southampton game, and we beat him 4-0 a few weeks back. And he said basically, he admitted to maybe not being in his right frame of mind, being a little bit lazy on the pitch. Not really lazy, but you know what I mean. Then just turned it on against Southampton, was absolutely untouchable, scored a great goal. And since then, he's just been in great form. And maybe he's now sort of realised and thought, okay, if I'm to be a top player at a top club or a top nation like Brazil, I've got to be performing every week. I can't just be going into big games. It
needs to be every week. And I think that's obviously loads of people talk about Salah and things like that. And it's kind of like, even when he doesn't play well, he finds ways to affect the game positively, whether that's an assist or a goal. And I think to be that top player, which I believe Joao will be, he just needs to make sure he's always having a positive impact. You need to be able to watch a game of football and him not go missing, and you can tell that he's involved. You probably would have had some games before and people didn't even know he was playing. So whereas to always be involved, I think to be that top player, that Brazil number 9, you need to always be effective, because it's football. You're not going to have a 10
It
out
comes
of 10
out, unfortunately,
performance.
as goals and assists. As a number 9, and that's what these big nations want. They want to see the big goals. They want to see moments where, as you say, the back's against the wall. It's not quite good for you at the moment. And I think that is one thing that I've always praised him for this year, is if the ball's going to fall for anyone in the last few minutes of a game, I just want it to be him. Because regardless of whether he's going to score or whether he's going to throw himself to the ground, I know that he's going to try and do something to win the game. And that it happened a couple of weeks ago against Fulham, where I think it was 95th minute, he gets to the ball and it dives, really. He does get a little bit of a kick, but it was a dive, if I'm being honest. But I thought when I saw that ball just fall to him and I saw it was him, and I look at the clock, I think it had to be, because if it was anyone else, I don't think it would have happened.
I think that's the thing with big game players. They're not fazed by that situation.
No.
For a lot of people, that they rush of blood, they go, oh my God, there's a ball, and just hit it and snatch it. Whereas for them, they're like, no, this is my moment. And they're nice and chill and calm. Go, I'm going to take my moment. And I think, again, that's the difference of being a top player. And I think that's, again, like when you watch people, for me, obviously, like Salah, in that sort of situation, you're like, oh, I know, it just looks comfortable. It's like 95th minute, has to score. He just goes, boom. It's like, to have that composure, and people say that aura about it, you need it as that big name player.
It goes back in time, though, doesn't it? The aura thing goes back in time, because everyone talks about the Zidans and the Cantonas of the world and Bergkamps, and so it's always been a thing. Henry's, even back to a long time ago with football, there's always the players that would be the ones that just doesn't matter to them.
Well, they just know. They know. They go into that situation not hoping to score. They know they're going to score. Just know. And it's like to have that, and doing that week on, week out as well. I think that's the important thing of even if you've just played 85 minutes terribly and you get that one chance at the end, boom. To do that, that's what I think makes that top player. Yeah,
I agree. I think there's a couple of top players, I think, in Brighton's squad now. I think, where it used to be, we'd have a bit of a lopsided couple of players here and there. I think when you look across the board, I'm really hoping that the press conference that comes out this week does give a bit of a positive update on Mitoma, because the rumour coming from Japan is that he's injured. We don't know what it is or how bad it is. No one knows, actually, as to what's going on. So that is a little bit scary, because I'm thinking we were talking about a real intense run in now to potentially getting some massive dreams come true.
He is such a key player, I think, for you lot as well. So hopefully it's nothing too bad. But also you have a lot of competitiveness in your squad as well. So I think that's also been really important for you boys this year.
All season.
I know, and it's mental, because he was really good last season.
AFCON winner this time last year.
And it's kind of like, for him to get into the side, what does he have to do? But you can't, because the boys on the pitch are playing so well, and the boys on the pitch might not be playing as well if they didn't know there was someone of Adingra's quality on the bench waiting to take the chance. And even when he's come on, he's done well. So I think it's been really good for Brighton this season to have that competitiveness in the squad, because it just makes them boys want to, because they all want to play. Everyone in that squad wants to play week in, week out. They want to play in the Prem. So they're going to do anything. If they know they have a top quality player who wants their shirt, they will do anything to perform and work their socks off. Because otherwise they'll go, you're in, you're out.
Well, the attacking threat, as we've always said, is ridiculous. During this international break as well, you've had Brian Gruder. I don't know if you saw a few of his highlights, but he looked electric for the German under-23s, or under-21s, I think he actually is out there. But regardless, looked ridiculously good. Scored as well, making some really nice runs, quite quick movement. I think he's allowed that a little bit more at that level. Obviously, in the Premier League, he's been a little bit subject to being a little bit muscled off the ball, not quite involved in the game as much as he could be. But he's very young. I think he said in his own way, he said, moving over here was a little bit of adaptation. And again, I feel like we had this conversation every 6 months, but like people just forget the adaptation process for players and just instantly expect them to hit the ground running just because you spent 20 million on them. But my thought process, especially with someone like Gruder, I just think you can obviously tell he's a talented kid. He's kind of reminds me of when Facundo came over from Argentina. And again, he was only 17 then. And, you could see that his touches were class, but he just wasn't anywhere near physical enough to play in the Prem.
I think it is difficult, but he strikes me as someone who he kind of understands his role well. Like he's not going and sulking like, why on earth am I not playing? I'm a top player. I've been doing really well in Germany 21s. Why am I not starting? I think he understands, and he's biding his time a little bit. Maybe next season, European football, more games, might get a bit more of an an It's quite funny. He goes to my gym, so I see.
Does he?
Yeah, I see him quite often.
No way. Do you speak to him much?
No, not at all. Obviously, I never had that. I was never there when he was there, so I never had that relationship. But he seems like I think he's come over like. Don't know whether it's his brothers and his dad as well. So I think he's brought a good sort of support network around that to help him settle a little bit.
Yeah, he always looking for people in the crowd at away ends, actually. It's some random memory in mind, but he always tends to go over towards the away end after the game. Doesn't seem to care about, the fact he's a player going over to a bunch of fans. He's just looking for his family.
And I think that's fantastic. Like, it's so nice to see having such a really lovely support network around him, whether that be his dads or brothers or his parents, whoever. Just to have that support network is fantastic. For such a young lad moving away, to then have that around him it's only going to benefit, because you can imagine how lonely that might be if he comes over, he's not really playing a lot, new country, he might really struggle. Whereas to have that support network, and they seem really close to him, so obviously the gym, and they seem really close. And now, like you say, when he's looking for him, to have that must be amazing for him, and have that support. And he seems like he just. Yes, he wants to play more. Of course, he wants to start, but he's not sulking. He's not having a go. He's not making it bad. That's what
Facundo mentioned. He said something about that a while ago when he first came over. It's about 6 months to a year or whenever he had just got himself actually into the team, and he sort of just the quote got really taken out of context as to how he said it, but. Again, he basically said he hated living out here on his own, and it's a whole new place, new culture. You think, especially from South America, the world's just a whole different world, right? It's not,
language
is different, lifestyle is completely different. So even just coming from Germany can't be easy. I couldn't imagine going out to Germany with you. Just on my own, or you going out to Germany.
Well, I think the only difference for I think his English is quite good. But at the same time, it's like, again, you're in a completely new environment. Like if we were to move away, like for anyone to move away at such a young age in a brand new country, must be, if you're doing it by yourself, must be so scary.
And it's just a transfer. It's not like an organised, you're thinking about going out there, or maybe we will, then you go. It's Brighton are calling, are you going to go? You've got till this week to decide. And then you're gone. And then all of a sudden in that flash, it's almost like that quietness afterwards, isn't it? And I think, as you'd be able to tell me best, but like with young players, it's quite a lot to ask, isn't it?
And don't get me wrong, there's a bit of support with the club. They might put you up for a bit, or they might sort of support you around kind of where to go and bring in some family over for the first couple of weeks, and there'll be a bit of support there. But it literally happens like a flat. I remember being sat in the change room. There's one kid who 21s of us sat in the change room, and he's just collecting all his stuff. And I'm like, "Oh, you're right, mate." And he's like, "Yeah, I've just been transferred to Blackpool." And I'm like, what? And it literally all happens like that. Blink of an eye. He said he had no idea until the morning. He's gone into training ground in the morning. His agents just called him. He was like, they've agreed the deal with Blackpool. And you're like, that is mental. Now he has to move everything. All of his stuff now goes all the way over there. moving country, like I mean, moving that far.
Blackpool's bad enough, right?
Imagine moving country, and it's like,
yeah,
that's just, it's crazy. And it's just little things like me and you, we can just walk to a shop, go grab a coffee, a bit of food, and it's so easy. Whereas you go to a different country, you know, that sort of that anxiety feeling, like, oh, like, what do I do? Where do I go? And
it probably goes from excitement to anxiety. It depends on the sort of person you are, I suppose. But
but it gets lonely. I think there's that. It's more, it gets a little bit lonely
on your own.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, you go in and you see your teammates, but that might be from 9 till 1. Obviously, there's older boys who they might support you some days, but they're going to have their own families and maybe kids and things like that. So they're not going to be able to spend all day, every day with you. So there'll be moments when you go home and you'll probably just be quite a bit bored and lonely. So I think it's important that really try and like integrate yourself. But yeah, it's for some players, it's scary and it's frightening. You have to grow up very quickly.
Yeah, it's a good conversation to have. I remember it with Caicedo when he came over. He was crying at the airport. Do you remember with his family in Ecuador, and he comes over and he was really young then as well. And just you know, there's a lot of players you've done it with now, and I guess I don't know. You'd know this best from the inside point of view, but from an outsider, a fan looking into it, it's like that's one thing that Brighton now probably have mastered in getting the young players over. You know, making them feel comfortable, happy. You know, this is the lifestyle. Obviously, I can imagine there's some stories that would come and say, actually, you know, I didn't have a great experience, or I haven't enjoyed it that much. And
that's bound to happen. I think that happens at every club. But I think also for a lot of these players that come over, like from these South American clubs, there's a lot of pressure. Like Caicedo just came out of nowhere, didn't he?
Yeah.
So there probably would have been a lot of like, this is your chance, this is your opportunity in the Premier League. Like, it's a lot of pressure maybe from his family to do well. And
well, actually, you say that. Like when we sold Caicedo and then we signed Baleba, I think that was actually probably one of the most unnecessary pressures ever on a player that we've actually done. And actually, the one time I thought, oh, that's a little bit, because I think it was a bit of a public thing as this is the new Baleba, this is the new Caicedo.
Yeah.
And I thought, hang on a minute, he's only 19. Like, he is going to take a while to settle. And we've put like 30 million saying he's the new Caicedo. That's now like a mainstream media narrative. Yeah. And I did feel a little bit for Carlos then. I'd love to chat to him about that one day and just ask him, you know, did that ever affect you? Obviously now he's by far and away, you know, completely settled, nearly enough. You know, he's practically there, I'd say, in terms of being an established Premier League player.
I think looking at Carlos, and obviously I don't know because I don't know him well, I think he probably would have just gone, nah, I'm going to be a better version. And I think that's where the recruitment's important. True. I think for some of these players, especially these younger players, for some of them, nothing gets to them. They're fearless, especially a lot of these ones from overseas. A lot of them are just fearless. They're going to come over and be like, nah, I'm 19, who cares? I'm just going to smash out the Prem. And for a lot of them, like, that's what they want to do. And if Carlos strikes me as someone like that, he would have seen that and be like, nah, I'm just
got good energy.
I'm just going to be a better version. He's always smiling, he's happy, he doesn't mind getting stuck in, getting involved. So yeah, I think for some players, they'll just go in, not a phase in the world. But we're all different. It's the same with everyone.
Yeah,
some of us aren't phased at all, and some of us just go into it with bags of nerves. So it's a lot of it. Again, you've got to get that recruitment right though. You understand the player's background and what they're like personally. You go, oh, we're going to sign someone. They're not going to like moving away from home, or they need a bit more support. Or can we sign someone we know they're going to be absolutely fine? But again, that can be hard to balance because before you do it, you might say one thing, and then when you're actually doing it, it can be a completely different story. So.
Yeah, no, it's very true. I think that's just about everything covered in a nutshell. Since we've been gone, it's been a weird couple of weeks, but the good thing is football's going to be very back now because we've got about 7 or 8 games left of the season. If I'm right in saying the running,
a couple more. Yeah.
Is it? It's the running doesn't stop pretty much. I think from now on, no more internationals, no more little blips. I think there is just straight football.
Straight through,
FA Cup run, obviously, for us as well. Hopefully we do get past Forest. For me, I want to get a definitive on this. I still think I'd rather beat Forest. If I was to choose.
If you had to choose one, I
want to beat both.
Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do. But if you had to choose one for the other, where is it? Is Villa at home?
Villa's at home. We've got a lot of home games now, actually, which might work in our favour, should work in our favour in theory.
Yeah.
I think the Forest game's obviously at home. For me, I mean, it's been 7 games after the 7-0 since, and we've won 6 of them, drawn 1 of them against City, where, again, we keep saying we could have won that game. Yeah. Then you come against Forest again, for me, it's just like to this perfect poetry of I want to go beat him for 8.
Yeah, no, obviously, but again, it's FA Cup football, so it's
going to be tough.
It's very different.
It is going to be
Cup
tough.
football, I think, is different. It just adds that added pressure.
Yeah.
It's like
we just can't
you lose,
set up
you're out.
in a stupid, like when we did it last time. I know that Baleba was ill, so hopefully that was just the reason behind some of the thinking. But that we were tactical suicide in that game, and we got rinsed for it every single time. They knew exactly what to do, and it was so obvious.
You just had an off day.
Yeah,
I think again the things
hope.
things didn't fall your way. There was a few of them chances. There was the one that kind of hit off the bar and
But
things
yeah,
earlier on.
Welbeck's.
It's like you just had one of them days, and you don't. In football, I think you don't really analyse that. You've learned from your mistakes, but you just go, we've had a bad day, and you move on. Like we had it the other day. We played Canvey, travelled hours away. We got battered 4-0. Every one of us, I think, played terribly. And yeah, you look back and you learn from the mistakes, but you don't overanalyse. You just had a bad day. It happens. It's very rare that every single person on the pitch in your team has a bad day, but we had one of them. And the same with Brighton, you just had a bad day. You move on and you go, it's a completely new game of football.
We hope for the very best and just, beat them. That would be great. Yeah. Villa, we'll see, but we'll get to that when it comes to it. But I think there probably won't be a podcast in between the two games. If it might be a little bit tight. So from the point of recording, just beat both of them. Get to the Champions League.
Two exciting games, I think.
Two exciting games. Toby, you've been an absolute pleasure, mate. It's good to have you back down.
Always good to be here.
And make sure you follow Talk Seagulls. Come to Caxton Arms as well. We're back here. Hopefully, we're going to be here a lot more often. We need to shout out Brett as well because he had his charity match.
Yeah, it looked incredible.
It was a lot of fun,
good.
actually.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool. Lots of good names there. Unfortunately, though, he did miss the penalty, and I was allowed to mention this. I did ask him. I said, look, so Brett, I'm really sorry, mate, but if you see the intro on this, there is a video of your penalty.
Oops.
But look, got to thank him. I think it was like 14 grand raised for charity.
It was incredible. It looked incredible. I've seen all the pictures and stuff, and fantastic cause. So well
17
done,
grand. 17 grand,
so well
even better. All for Rocking Horse charity. So I can still leave the links if you want to still donate. They probably can still, I'd assume. But yeah, all really good stuff. I'll get a little compilation done and send it all to Brett, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of content about it as it comes. But Toby, absolute pleasure again, mate. Support Brett's pub, support Brett in general, and we'll see you very, very soon. Goodbye.